I'm Dr. Chamonix Blanche, ex-corporate and academical, turned CEO and board member of several companies and mother of 4 little extraordinary kids. But it wasn't that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the know-how, and the time to focus on designing and really going after the life that I so wanted to live. A life of freedom, of fairness, and of being fair dinkum to who I really was and what I wanted to get out of this fleeting time that we have on Mother Earth. Fast forward to many lessons learned and moving halfway around the world to the most amazing country, you'll see the life that I now live. One that gives me more safety and freedom than I ever thought would be possible, and that really only existed as a daydream while I was living in South Africa. I created Chamonix TV to give you true spot advice on how you can also live a life in this amazing country, and so that you can see how another couple like us now live in Australia with 4 little kids hearing down under. And I'll be providing you with step-by-step strategies so that you can make your Aussie dream a reality too. If you're a keen future Aussie who's looking to create a life that excites you and offers you safety, freedom, and opportunity, you have come to the right place, my friend. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Stephan. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's absolutely lovely seeing you. It looks like you're in Uluru, but you are in fact in Sydney, you tell me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Look, Uluru is just one of those amazing spots that I've had the privilege to visit. My wife and I and the kids went there, and we had the outlaws with us, and we traveled around for a couple of weeks, and it's just an amazing place to visit. I come from a small country town. I spent many years in Aberdeen in the Eastern Cape, which is not many people might know where it is, but I went to school in Graaff-Reinet, so I do like visiting the country areas where now, I live in one of the biggest cities in the world, and it's amazing.
Now, how did you choose Sydney? Tell us what happened. What was your journey into Australia?
So many moons ago, back in 99, a mate and I, we were involved with wimpy fast food shops, and we had he owned 2 of them, and I was involved with the one there in Walmer Park in Port Elizabeth. And as luck would have it, he came to Tasmania for a wedding. One of his mates, one of the guys he went to school with, came to his wedding. And when he came back to Port Elizabeth, he said, "Look, mate, I'm moving. So I'm selling out of everything. I'm packing up. I'm moving." So my journey to Australia was, I didn't intend moving to Australia. I came over with a mate who was moving. I came for a holiday. I came for the adventure of my life. I was only early 20s at the time. And I thought, yeah, why not? We've just cashed out of a business. Why not? Let's see what it's like. I've never been to Australia. And on the 3rd of September, 99, we landed in Sydney. And within a couple of weeks of me being here, I thought, man, I love this place. I'll do anything I can to stay. Wow. And only then started the process. Now, things were simpler 21 years ago, or 22 years ago, than what they are now. So it was quite the journey.
So you came alone at that point in time?
Yes, I did. So it was Paul and I. We arrived here. He came having bought a business already, and was going to open that business. So it was just the 2 of us. He was married. I was single at the time. He was married with 2 kids, and his wife and kids only arrived, months later after the shipping container with the furniture and all that arrived. So yeah, I came over by myself, not knowing anyone else here, really, just Paul and I. So yeah, we had to learn everything, right? Certainly from my experience, every big culture shock for a Afrikaans-speaking Okie from Aberdeen.
Could you speak English?
Yes, luckily Graaff-Reinet had a good high school, Hoërvolksskool. And my dad's second wife was English speaking, so I wasn't completely illiterate in English. It was a struggle. I
That's
think the
interesting.
culture is just very different.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people find it really hard to make friends over here, and that's why you find South Africans tend to stick with other South Africans, and that's not something that we've done. We, you know, when I arrived, people pick up the accent. Oh, you're South African? Yes. Are you Jewish? No. Do you live in St. Ives? Don't even know where that is. You know, so it was very
That's
much
true. There's a very big Jewish community in Sydney. I've heard South African Jewish community.
correct. And
Yeah.
so those days, the assumption was just that's where you live, and those are the people that you surround yourself with. You know, so interesting in that aspect. I also was called the odd racial slur back then, and to me, it was, what are you talking about? You know, I had to find out from a young Egyptian guy I knew what the word wog meant. Nowadays it's very impolite, but those days there's a movie, The Wog Boy, came out, and it's typically referred to as an Italian guy. Now maybe it's the dark hair, it's a bit more grey nowadays, but maybe they thought I was Italian, you know.
Well, I like The Wog Boy, by the way. I love that movie. So for those people who are intending to come to Australia, you've got to watch Wog Boy and the Castle. That's the other two classic Australian films that we really enjoy. Have you seen The Castle?
Yeah, I have. Luckily, we don't live in a place with the power lines running through the backyard. Having your own patch of dirt in Australia is a blessing on its own, even if there are power lines running through it.
Yes. Land in Australia is rather expensive, but you know, it's if you're working in a specific country, in my view, it's not very dissimilar to working in South Africa, because you earn proportionally to what you can pay for, so what you can afford. So if you're a hard worker in South Africa, you're going to be able to afford a living. If you're a hard worker in Australia, you're going to be able to afford a living. Yes, some things are more expensive here than there, but then there are some things that's more expensive there than here compared to what you're earning. So yeah, Australia is an interesting country, and the culture is in some aspects quite different, as you say, but then in other aspects it's so similar. They've got the same type of sports. I like being outdoors. You mentioned earlier, just before we got online, you like camping. So do you guys go out camping often in Australia?
Well, 2 weeks ago we went camping up at Oxley Island. Should tell the names of these places because then it's going to get crowded, right? But we like we like bush camping, so we go fully off grid, and we go on farms and things like that. There's a number of websites where people rent out space on their farm, and you know, we love just getting back to nature. So this place where we went camping, in spite of the 60 mil of rain on consecutive days, we extended our stay for 3 days. We had the best time. The kids were running around in the mud. These people have got chickens on their farm, so we got fresh eggs every day. You know, my little daughter, she's only 9. She goes and gets the eggs. They're still warm, you know, like, Dad, feel here. So we do things like exploring bushwalks, and, you know, we went to the second highest falls in the Southern Hemisphere and do that sort of thing in the mornings. And then in the afternoons, we go and chill around the camp.
Is that in Sydney area or?
So this place is about 3 hours north of Sydney. It's near a town called Old Bar. And it's a really small town, but this is the beauty about being here. There's so many beaches that you can go and explore. I love the ocean, even though I grew up in Aberdeen. I love the ocean. I love surf skis, like paddling and swimming and that kind of stuff. So we go and explore all these tiny little inlets, you know, and there's hardly anyone there, even during school holidays. I spent many a year in Jeffreys Bay, and Jeffreys Bay, come Christmas time, all the valleys would come down, and it'd just be crazy busy, where some of these small towns, even when it's crazy busy for them, it's actually quite average for a Sydney side, I suppose. You know, you can still get coffee easily, you can get parking easily, you know. So yeah, we go as far north as Coffs Harbour, which is a good 6-7 hours drive, especially with kids in the car, where we also go stay on a farm. and it's a few beaches in close reach. So yeah, we love that stuff. It's awesome. And yes, that is very similar to in South Africa. We didn't camp much in South Africa. We're embracing that more here now. And I mean, it's safe. You go out in the bush, you go out in the sticks, there's hardly anyone there. You don't worry too much leaving your valuables in your tent, where I know if you go to a big camping ground where it's really busy, you always run the risk of people nicking your stuff.
I think one of the things that South Africans don't usually realize is the mere size of Australia. This country is absolutely massive. I know for one, I had no idea the first time when I came to Australia, we went to Sydney and then Perth. And my dad said to me, the flight between Sydney and Perth, or Brisbane and Perth, I think it was, it's like 5.5 hours. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you crazy? Because Pretoria to Cape Town to me was far. And that was like, what, an hour and a half on the plane? So when my dad said Sydney to Brisbane, Perth to Brisbane, 5.5 hours, like that was the first time I realized how massive this place really is. Because, when you look at a map of the earth or a globe ball that you've got, it's always just like this little island on the side. You don't really pay much attention to it if you're in South Africa, and you always have Africa in the middle, and then Australia sits off to the right side, until you actually come here and you start driving. And then obviously, as I said to you earlier, that's what we've just done. We've driven around Australia. You said you drive 6 hours north of Sydney and you're still in New South Wales, and you go to Coffs Harbour. And that's just New South Wales. That's not even entering into Queensland. That's halfway from Pretoria to Cape Town. That's like, so you're halfway through South Africa, if you look at it that way. It's amazing how big this place is.
And the difference is from the East Coast to the West Coast is 3 hours
time difference. Yeah.
I mean, in South Africa, you wouldn't think about that. It'd be one time in Joburg and 3 hours earlier in Cape Town. I mean, what are you talking about?
Doesn't make sense.
But driving Cape Town to Joburg would be a 10-hour drive, which is between Sydney and Melbourne going south, or Sydney and Brisbane going north. Then you're nowhere near Cairns, you're nowhere near Townsville, you're nowhere near Perth. It's amazing. It's an amazing country.
And the other thing that you mentioned also is the fact that there is so much space where there are so few people or hardly any people, because it's a massive country and we've only got 25 million population. It's very easy to go just like a couple of hours in one direction and be by yourself, literally, like nobody else around you.
Yeah, so look, I still want to drive to the desert. I mean, we flew to Uluru, but I still want to take the road trip there. It's when you start planning your holidays, I mean, you could literally be driving for 2-3 days to get to a specific location. Where, in South Africa, where can you drive in 2-3 days? I mean, you've gone from one side
around
of the country
Australia.
to the other. And then of course there's Tasmania. And we've done a trip to Tassie, like you did with the camper van. We did that with the outlaws and the kids. And that was amazing in its own, right? That's completely different atmosphere again. People are different. The roads are different. It's awesome. It's awesome.
And it's a different climate as well. So I have never been to Tasmania. I've seen everything in Australia almost, except Uluru. But people tell me that Tasmania feels to them a little bit almost like England. It's got that sort of small island charm. Like England's not that small, but you know what I mean. It's got that sort of coziness, cuteness, lots of greenery, obviously, and the food.
Look, the Tassies are very proud of locally produced stuff. So I quite like a beer. They make amazing local craft brews. They even make their own scotches. Their culture is such, you're going to a pub and the top shelf, which would typically be reserved for the expensive brands, is all locally made stuff. So, and when you look at the menu, all the Tasmanian specific food, the local produce is up near the top, and they're very proud to talk about, hey, it's Tasmanian stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we went to a small island called Bruny Island off the Tasmanian coast, and the people on Bruny Island talk about Tasmania as the mainland, where typically Hobart people would say the mainland is the rest of Australia. And the interesting people around the town, around the traps. It's awesome. It's awesome to experience, you know. So I think for anyone arriving in Australia, there is the first bit is the hardest, like putting your roots down, and then going to explore. That's amazing because you get to see and experience all these new and different things
in safety.
Yeah, and it's safe, you know.
Yeah.
It's so different.
So tell me, what is the best thing for you about Australia, Stephan? You've been here now for 20 odd years. What after 20 years, do you still feel it's special? Do you feel like what is it that brought you to Australia?
I think every time we go traveling and we see something new, you know, like we just went and saw to the Ellenborough Falls, which is the second highest falls in the Southern Hemisphere. There was hardly anyone there, and it was so cool. You know, we walked down this massive path to get to the bottom, and you know, every time we experience something new, and there's so much of it. I don't know that you can ever experience all of it. You know, so my retirement plan is one day when the kids are out at home is just to go traveling around Australia and go see all the different parts. And I love that, you know, and I love, like, we're camping out on a farm. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's safe. I don't know, I love that kind of stuff. We just recently bought a 4-wheel drive, so now that opens up new areas to go and explore that we couldn't go previously in the soft roader.
That's a very good point that you raised, because with our travels, having been around Australia now, we went in a 2x4, of course, having a motorhome, which it's not a 4x4. So we were bound to bitumen, as we would say, teerpaaie. And so much in Australia is still on dirt roads. There are masses and masses of beaches, unexplored kind of beaches, the ones you were talking about earlier, that you can only reach by 4x4. And most of these places are free. You can go there and you can stay there for free on the beach, by the turquoise water, perfectly safe. Nobody is going to do anything to you. You've got this whole beach to yourself, beautiful weather. It's like, so you've done the right thing by getting that car and considering going, because next time, if we have an opportunity to go around Australia, I would do it with a 4x4 and obviously have enough time, because if you only have 4 months, you're on the tight schedule to hit the road. But go and explore. It is just incredible. And so on the same note, Stephan, what is the one thing about South Africa that you miss the most?
Look, it would be family and friends, right? So even after 21 years, those ties, like your best mates that you had since you were young, since your school days maybe, or uni days, they'll be your best mates forever. You know, so, and my family is still there. So I miss those guys, and I miss that, like, my kids are growing up over here, and while we've been to South Africa, since I've arrived, maybe 8 or 10 times, you know, and the kids have been several times, and we go for weddings and that kind of thing. Now, you know, so you miss that part of it. So I've got mates here that I've had for 18, 19 years, and they are my best mates over here. And I love these guys, you know, and it's just hard to replace your best mate from when you were young, right? I mean, you can't build that same relationship because you're not going through the same stuff. You're in a different phase of your life. So I think that part of it, and we did take the kids on a safari when we were there last. So it must be 2 years ago now. And it was an amazing experience, you know, like those game drives. And that's not something you can do over here. You've got Dubbo Zoo where they've got the animals, but it's not quite the same as sitting on that open lorry. And the lions are eating a carcass here right next to you, or the elephant. We had a little baby elephant walk right up to the cruiser and touch the cruiser with its trunk, you know, and it's like, wow, it was so amazing. Everyone's so quiet, and it's like, Benson, our driver's like, you know, don't move, sit still, and you know, that kind of stuff is unique South African, also unique to Africa. But you know, if you have to trade that off with, we went to the Wimpy in one of the shopping centers there, and there was a guy with a bulletproof jacket, and he's got an assault machine gun, and he's got a 9mm, And my little boy, he was smaller then, he's 30 now, he goes up to the guy and he taps the gun. He says, "Is this a real gun?" I'm like, "Mate, get the hell away from this guy. He's here to protect the cash delivery. You know, if anyone's going to get shot, it's him." So he's never seen anyone. He's never seen anyone carry a machine gun in the street before. You know, it's
or just a normal gun, just a gun. I don't know. We never see guns in Australia. Like
police officers. If you see a police officer, they carry and I've got mates who are police officers, so maybe we're a little bit more exposed to that side of things. And we've got South African friends who all aren't. Yeah, they've got rifles and so on. So it's just not the same.
But we don't have hunting friends here around us, so my kids don't see that. Yes, you mentioned the police officers. They do, you know, little guns that they have wherever in their back pockets. They're always locked. They're always almost tucked away because they hardly ever need them. It's like, I think they carry them around just because they have to carry them. I don't think they ever need it.
Well, if you look at the gun crime in Australia, obviously it doesn't compare anything to South Africa, and you don't get the same level of police officers or people with guns being attacked and then those firearms being used. You know, and that's so I would trade off. You know, they can keep the animals over there, and I'll keep the feeling safe over here. That's all good by me.
That's right. You can always go to see the animals.
That's right.
Tell me, Stephan, what is the one thing that bugs you about Australia? Is there anything specific that annoys you?
You know, it annoys me and I love it sort of at the same time. Just some of the stuff that people complain about. You know, if you listen to talkback radio or if you look, even like the news reports, you know, the stuff that make
first world news, problems.
It's like, wow, I'm so blessed to be here. You know, it is so awesome. Because in the big scheme of things, our problems are not that big. You know?
Exactly right. But they've got nothing else to talk about. That's the thing.
Oh no, India beat Australia in the cricket. And some guy called some other guy a name. Oh no, that's terrible. You know?
Oh, it's funny. It's exactly right. The stuff sometimes when you read the news headlines, if you see a newspaper, if you still see newspapers, because you know, those are being phased out, but the news headlines on Australian news channels, sometimes things you just think, do they have nothing else to talk about? Like, I think
how is this news? Just tell me, how is this news? This is not news.
But then they've got a lot of feel-good stories or good news stories, which is great because at least they bring in some of the other side of things, but they struggle to find bad news stories. I think coronavirus has been good in a sense for Australian TV because it gave them something to talk about. You know, if coronavirus goes out the door, they'll turn back to the politicians because they don't really have much to be giving us interesting news on. I say interesting news. It depends on how you see it, but I'm happy to get this kind of news. I much prefer this than whenever I'm in South Africa. It feels like, you know, when you're driving down the roads and you have these news rapport, courant stuff on the side of the on the lamp poles. It's always man shot dead or another boer being murdered or what. It's like, oh, it's anyway, going back to your comments around your family, tell me, two kids or did I?
Yeah, I've got a boy and a girl. So the teenager is now in second year in high school and knows everything. We can't teach him anything anymore. And then I've got a little girl that's still in primary school. But they were obviously born here. You know, they are Aussie as. They
speak Afrikaans. Is your wife South African?
My wife is South African, yes. So I speak Afrikaans. Lana and I talk Afrikaans to each other. We talk Afrikaans to the kids. They understand it, but they are fair dinkum Aussies. They can speak a little bit of Afrikaans, you know. So when Lana and I married in 2002, we didn't have John till 2007, so it was a good time for us to be together, just the two of us. But the Outlaws love me so much. They've moved to Australia as well. They've now been here for 10 years, and Lana's sister is also here.
So you met Lana in Australia?
No, I've known Lana for a long time. We knew each other when I moved here. And only once I was here, I called her and I said, listen, you need to come and check this place out. It's amazing. And then she did. And then not long after we got engaged, and on the Harbour Bridge nogals.
Oh, nice.
And we got married in South Africa, in the town where we met, in J Bay.
Oh, sweet. And she's happy in Australia? She's glad she made the move?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, we have these discussions. So when we went camping now, we had the outlaws with us, and they might see this video, so I should probably say the in-laws. And we were just talking about, and Lana's sister was there as well. So it was a real family get together just after Christmas. Just the benefits of being here, how good we have it here. It's amazing. In terms of not only your freedoms, like being able to camp like that and going to explore, and but in terms of what the currency is worth and the things that you can access. Back in '99, I brought some rands over and I paid R3.76 for $1. And you look at it today, transferring money over there, I get 12 Rand for every $1. So just in terms of what you can buy, like inflation in South Africa, they're talking about, it's less than 10%. And you think, well, we're talking about inflation in Australia 2 or 3%. So just the things that how different it is. And you talk about interest rates. So I do finance in Australia. I've done doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, and my wife probably closer to 10, maybe 7, 8 years that we've owned the business. You just look at the interest rates that South Africans are used to and what the interest rates are over here. So in terms of what it is you can buy, right? So if you're buying cars or houses or that kind of stuff, you're in a much better position. It's more affordable. And so if you compare that to being in South Africa, and you were talking before, look, if you work hard, you'll make good money. You have to make an awful lot of money in South Africa to make it equivalent to here, just in terms of the currency not being devalued year after year.
Yes, that's true. That does make a difference. So you mentioned finance. You've been in finance for 4 or 5 years?
Yes. Yeah. So we became property investors first, and then realized that the market in Australia is very different to South Africa. So how you get finance, how things work, completely different in terms of where lenders focus and so on. And there are so many lenders. There's over 100 lenders in Australia where you can get finance for a house or a car, and it's different lenders. It's not just your bank. And so we bought this franchise. It's called Smartline, and this particular franchise is over 20 years old. So it's got a good client base. We now get the children of our original clients come to us for finance, but also we've helped a number of South Africans. I think South Africans find other South Africans because we speak the same language. You can get through the nitty gritty. Maybe there's an inherent level of trust there. So we've helped numerous South Africans buy their first property over here or their first car over here. Because coming over on a visa is obviously different, presents its own challenges. Sometimes you can buy on a visa. Some visas you can't get finance on at all. But there are ways, so you can register a business. There are solutions around some of those problems. So I think that makes a difference for us, right? We love helping people.
So did you study financing in Australia then? Because you mentioned you had a wimpy in South Africa, and what visa did you come over on?
So yes, in South Africa we had fast food shops, and so initially the business that I made open sponsored me to stay because there's skill sets that I had that we couldn't find a solution for here. So my background is small business management. I love small business, and that's what brought me into the finance business. It's a franchise that my wife's been running long before I joined. But with the small business experience and that side of, I could see there's some changes that we could make to make the business operate better. So by then, I married and I've become a citizen. My wife actually became a citizen before I did. So I married a citizen, although we're from the same place. So we've grown the business from a one-man band, from one person working to in the business to 4 of us working in the business.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
so we've just been able to segment it out or break some of the stuff out. So the administrative stuff that you don't need someone with a qualification to do, we get someone to do the administrative stuff. They're waiting on the phone to the bank for an hour, that kind of stuff. Where we are both qualified to do finance in Australia, and we do the client-facing stuff. So we have the relationship with the client, and we make sure that we get the product that suits that client's needs. And so we've grown the business to not just do resi stuff and investment properties. We also do commercial, and we also do asset finance or cars and that kind of thing. So the business has grown significantly just with the changes that we've made. So, you know, it's all part of our journey, right? It's an amazing experience, because when I was running fast food shops and we had ice cream shops and party shops here in Australia, to now doing finance, it's still part of the journey. It's a different angle, but each change gives you more freedom.
Yeah.
You go from working a hourly gig. I mean, we've done jobs that we didn't like doing. We've delivered pamphlets and catalogs and, you know, anything just to get grease in the wheels. We've done lots of things like that. Like between the 2 of us, at many times we've held down 3 jobs, you know. So to get to a point where we now own the business and we own our cars and we can go traveling, it's awesome. It's great.
A couple of points that you mentioned there, which I think is really important. The one is the fact that you, in a way, actually changed your career from having been a party/restaurant kind of owner into going into finance. In Australia, that is really possible to do. And we've seen it so many times. I mean, I'm one of those people. I've changed my career several times, the industry that I work in. And Australia allows that. I say allows that. It's possible to do in Australia. Whereas I've heard so many times in South Africa that people say, oh, I'm just scared. I just don't want to, I can't. They're sielsongelukkig. I don't know what's that in English. They're just so unhappy. And they just don't know how to change their career. Whereas in Australia, it's quite a common thing for people to, in their, you know, midlife crisis sometimes, or whatever age, they just decide, no, I'm now tired of being a teacher. I now want to buy a nail salon or whatever it might be, you know. And so that's the one thing. And the other thing that you mentioned, was about dropping pamphlets. People don't look down in Australia on you depending on what job you have. If you got to do pamphlet dropping, then that's great. I greet the pamphlet droppers in my street, and I'm very happy to see them, and I thank them for doing what they're doing, because I know I'm a local councillor as well, and in my role I often need to have pamphlets dropped, and I sometimes go out and drop them myself, or I ask somebody else to help me to do it. There's no shame in a position or a job a career that you have in Australia, which is very different to what we've experienced in South Africa. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, look, I tell South Africans, mate, if you want to move here, if you want to have this change in your life, you can make it work. You just need to put your pride, set your thoughts in your sock, you know, put your pride, maybe look at, because you don't view a cleaner, for example, in South Africa the same as what you would here. Like the cleaner client that we've got, she owns over $3 million worth of property.
Wow.
But she cleans houses. You know, so she goes in, she's the lady that you would ring to come and wash your bathroom walls and, you know, do the cleaning around your house, and she charges extra to do the oven. You know, so she's earning enough money to have investment properties. You know, so you don't, just because someone says, I'm a cleaner, sometimes they're underplaying the real game, because the real game is
do that.
You know, so if you're one of those people that just like, oh, cleaner, I'm going to talk to somebody else, you're missing out on a real opportunity to get to know someone and know more about them, because people are not always giving you everything up front, right? You need to get through some, and that, to your point, very seldom have I met people and they ask me, what do you do for a living? That's not the first question. It's more about, what are your interests? What do you
Yeah.
do? Who are you as a person?
What's your hobbies? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's more important. And I think that was part of the culture shock for me coming to Australia. It's not the same. You know, no one cares who your mum and dad is. They don't care what jobs you've done before. And they really don't want to hear how much money you're making. Because if you are one of those people that just, oh, mate, I made 180 grand last year, or I just signed this $200,000 deal, mate, they cut you down at the knees. Like tall poppy syndrome is a big thing over here. People don't want to hear that. So it's interesting, you know, because I work with a lot of South Africans too. Quite often, people want the same as what they had in South Africa, and that's not necessarily possible because things are a little bit different here in that regard, you know. Like rocking up and I need to have the $60,000 Prado or whatever the car is. It's not such a big deal here. People don't care what car you drive.
Yeah, but that's one of the first things that the South Africans want to buy, is that really nice. And I guess it's your prerogative. If you want to do that, that's great. However, what I've also seen is that they come because they bring their rands into dollars. You're in that sense of euphoria just when you arrive, and you've got a lot of cash usually, and then they go to the shops and they're like, oh, a new Beamer is just like 80 grand or whatever it might be. Yeah. They're like, oh, I've got 80 grand, and then they just cash out like here is a, you know, which is great for them if they want to, but I think sometimes they overspend in that first part. But it's still the South African syndrome of keeping up with the Joneses. And now they feel like, oh, they're coming to a new country. They've got all this cash. Now they want to be able to also show who they are. So, it's tricky. Look, it's tricky to find your feet.
Yeah, look, and it's not meant as a criticism to anyone who's in that position, right? But it's important to understand the culture over here. And it's not, the tall poppy syndrome is real. So if South Africans, unfortunately, tend to be viewed through a lens of being arrogant, and as humble as that, it doesn't matter even how humble you are, you need to show it. You know, you need to be able to demonstrate it, because as soon as you start talking yourself up, there'll be somebody there to cut you down at the knees. The Aussies don't like that kind of thing, and if you want to make friends here, you want to try. So something for us that worked for us is we joined a sports club. We did dragon boating. Funny story. I was working corporate at the time, and one of the guys I was supposed to work with was in South Africa, in Cape Town, doing dragon boating back in 2002. And I said to the boss, I said, listen, I don't know this guy from a bar of soap, right? But let me tell you, there's no dragon boating in South Africa. That's a made-up sport. It doesn't exist. So this is my mate now for 20 years. Like Mike and I love the guy, right? He really was in South Africa doing dragon boating. He got me into the club, and we've made friends in that club that we still have today. You know,
what is dragon boating?
So it's a long boat that takes 20 paddlers, a drummer, and somebody steering at the back. And it's got a dragon head and a dragon tail. It's a Chinese sport.
Like a canoe.
Yeah, so you only 10 people sit on the left and only paddle on the left, and 10 sit on the right and only paddle on the right. It's like the national sport in China, and through that dragon boating club, my wife and I both wore the green and gold. We represented Australia in China on a national level.
How awesome.
I was still traveling on a South African passport at the time, which displeased the Chinese government no end. Like, where are you? Why are you on a South African passport paddling green and gold? Come here. Like, they took me to a little room there. I was very nervous for a while. I was worried I might disappear. But anyway, we made friends because we fitted in. You know, we made a concerted effort to fit in with these people, and they were very social. There were clubs, sport events every month. You know, we'd be traveling with this group of people, and we made really good friends that we still have today. We're still in contact with today. So, you know, in terms of fitting in, you want to understand the culture. You know, these are tips that'll maybe make it easier for you to just relate to the people around you. You know, but if you want to go live in St. Ives, there's some great South African shops there too, you know.
So if there's, well, obviously there will be people watching this interview going, oh, I want to go to Australia. I want to, yeah, I'm considering packing my bags or whatever. What advice would you give them, Stephan?
Mate, do it as soon as you can. You know, I didn't come here thinking that I'm going to live here. And it's only once I arrived here and I started working out things for myself that I thought, wow, this place is amazing. And you can make it work. You know, you don't have to come here with a boatload of money. I didn't have much money when I came over here because I was only going to stay for 3 months. And 21 years later, I'm still here. But like I said earlier, you know, if you want to make it work, you can. So whether that be cleaning people's houses, babysitting children, dog walking, delivering pamphlets. You know, I've met South Africans that came over here, their qualifications weren't recognized here. They had to go study again, and they delivered newspapers. I don't think that's a thing anymore, or I very seldom see newspapers delivered, but they worked their butts off for a good 2 years while they requalified in Australia. And both those individuals are now professionals in IT, and they are making a mozza. Believe me, IT is not the be all and end all. I've met some IT individuals that have been doing it for 10 years that make 80 grand a year and they're looking to get out. So it's just an example of how people requalify, but they do what they have to do to get there. You know, there's a family that lives 2 doors over from me, and that's the kids, that's their job. They all have to contribute to the household. So while these kids are not, they're still in school, on weekends they have to go deliver pamphlets. That's their thing, or catalogs, or, you know, and that's how they contribute to the household. You see the kids washing cars and cleaning the driveway, you know. I had a guy quote on a hedge here outside the house to come and trim the hedge. And he said, oh, $700 if I take the clippings. Now for $700, I went to Bunnings and bought my own hedge trimmer. And I've been using it. You know, so I'm not going to pay someone $700, but mowing a lawn over here or doing hedge trimming, which may be a menial job in South Africa, it can make you a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, we see it. The doctor lives next to the gardener, lives next to the cleaner, lives next to the plumber and whatever else, yeah, architect or whatever. It does not matter. It doesn't mean that you're earning more than somebody else just because of a specific industry that you're in. Absolutely. So that's why it's a land of opportunity. If you work hard, the harder you try, the luckier you get.
Look at it, and it's hard. Don't make no mistake. Moving countries, the younger you are, I think the easier it is to adapt. Like if I compare myself to maybe Lana's parents coming over, it's a bigger shock for them. It's a bigger change. Like I've got more years ahead of me to make back whatever I've exchanged, you know, because you're coming here, even if you've got a lot of money, it's not so much money over here. But if you're willing to, so yeah, getting over that culture shock is one thing. And then you need to be willing to do stuff that you wouldn't maybe have done in South Africa.
Yeah.
But certainly there's opportunities. Like this cleaning lady, she's got a team of people working for her. It's not just her anymore. You know, so she's taken something that was menial and turned it into something really meaningful. I mean, now she's built up a property portfolio of $3 million.
Amazing. Wow.
You know, and there's opportunities. You just need to look for them. And I think there's so many South Africans willing to help, right? You found me on Facebook, or I found you on Facebook. There's so many support networks and support groups, and people are so freely giving advice. You know, I'm happy to help and listen to anyone and give advice where I can. It almost seems we are looking better after our own over here than we ever did over there.
Oh.
And, you know, I'm sure there's bad people out there too, right? So you have to have your wits about you and not be led up the garden path. But I genuinely feel people who are here, who've gone through the journey, genuinely want to help.
Exactly right. They don't want other people to go through what they've gone through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we thank you for the fact that you were willing to come on here, Stephan, and share your experience and tell us, you know, what it was that you like and you dislike. And the people in South Africa, as you know, they're like sponges. They just want to absorb what it is that we do here and how things have worked for us and how we're settling in. Because when it's such a big change or life decision that you're about to make and embark on, everything is daunting. Like, you just start getting nervous about all the small things. So thank you for sharing your experience and how things have worked for you guys. And a lot of people don't want to share. We've just said there are many people who do, but there are actually some people who don't want to share. So thank you for coming on and for helping some of those South Africans just feeling a little bit more at ease in the journey. Is there any lasting parting thoughts that you'd like to say?
Look, it's an amazing experience. Thank you for the opportunity. Look, I'm happy to help. I've got Lana's Facebook name up there somewhere. Check us out. If you liked it, if I didn't offend too many people and didn't upset anyone, press the like button. But listen, I think it's an amazing opportunity to live here, and I wouldn't change it for the world. We've done a round the world trip. We've visited many countries. Probably wouldn't have been possible if we were still in South Africa. But look, I think amazing experience, and I wouldn't delay it by a minute if I could. Certainly from a financial perspective, if you've got money there, it's getting worth less and less in terms of US dollars or Australian dollars every day.
Yeah.
So if you financially protect yourself, save yourself, mate, you wouldn't regret. Look, people go back all the time. In my view, you won't regret it. If you commit it, you want to make it work. It'll work.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Boer maak 'n plan.
I say. Thanks, Stephan. Enjoy your day.
And you, Chamonix. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. If you had fun, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and then it'll make sure that you never miss a thing. I'll see you same time and same place next week. Bye for now.